Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry.
Happy New Year, welcome to Rugby AM. I'm Alex Simmons, and today we're looking back on the best of 2017. First up, in part one, we're going over to the Yorkshire Legends to see them take on the Resource Crossbar Challenge, and also we're going over to the Great Yorkshire Show as Nick Scruton shows us about his little beekeeping, because he's got bees. He's a bit strange, but he's a crazy guy, but we'll love him. Check this out.
Kekiman, centre. Great Price, winger, aka Flash.
Robbie Hunter Paul, formerly Robbie Paul, and I'm definitely a Yorkshire lad. Danny Mills, winger.
Millsy, lad! Oh, Millsy! Oh, Millsy!
Monuino, left centre.
Chris Norman, it's Buggy. Geordie.
You and Dow's prop forward. Kylie. Centre.
Go on, Charlie.
Johnny up, fullback.
Come on, halfback. Oh! Yes.
Wayne Godwin, hooker. Nickname, Wagataurus.
Show his speed on, Wagger. Wait.
JP.
Every time I see you got a different colour there. So you can't hear them and everywhere.
Prop. Lee Radford. Standoff.
Come on, Reddit.
Matt Colwood, winger.
Union. Come on.
Danny off. Stand off.
King of Jonesbury.
Gilly. Second row, Yorkshire origin.
Go on, Gilly. Go on, Gilly, lads.
Still Chris Storman. Still Spuggy. Yorkshireman.
Oh, Spuggy, fuck.
We're outside Hives and Honey, and I've got a really excited professional rugby player in Nick Scruton, ex-Wakefield, now Hull KR with Dono, and I'm also joined by Greg Sharp, professional beekeeper. Scruton, see what we're looking at here. Where's the honey, mate? Show me the honey.
Well, it's just a bit of an observation hive, this one. So we've got some nectar here that's not been sealed up yet, and then this is more of your honey super, so they'll move honey up into here eventually and then seal it all up, and then it's ready for consumption.
So Greg, do the bees actually carry the honey up? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how they do it. They bring it in, they process it, and then they move it up into the top frame.
And Scoots is being a bit modest. He's saying he's an amateur in comparison to you, being 14 years beekeeping. What have you got from being a beekeeper? What has it given you, added to your life?
And everything. It's brilliant. You know, you can't find a better hobby.
And Scoots, you were telling me as well before, pretty passionately, that bees are endangered now.
Yeah, well, there's stuff all over the press at the minute. If there were no bees, then we'd have about 3-4 years to live, and then the world will be doomed. So we're just doing us a bit that way to save the world, mate.
Yeah.
No biggie, no biggie.
No biggie. We've got two superheroes here saving the world one beat at a time. Right now, we're going to link over because Jonesy joined you at the Hives. How did Jonesy do on his first debut beekeeping?
Jonesy were mad for it. No sign of Wagger. Wagger were an absolute no-show. Very quick to pull out of that one. But yeah, Jonesy loved it. He said all along, right from when he found out that I were keeping bees, that he'd love to tag along one day. And yeah, he took to it really well.
I've always had a bit of a goal, Scroots, to keep chickens, goats and bees for the honey, for the milk and for the eggs, fresh daily produce. And this is my first experience of having a go with the beehives. They're sounding a bit angry, a bit buzzy. I'm a bit worried because I've never done it before. We're kitted up. I think I've got a Ghostbusters costume. Scroots has got the full stuff. But Scroots, just check us through the process, particularly with this like can of smoke here. What's that for?
Yeah, well, the smoke, it just keeps the bees calm. It can calm them down, so you make sure they're well smoked. I think it goes back to like an instinct in them with they sense like kind of a bushfire sort of thing, right. So they all run back into the hives, gorge on the honey, and it can just settle them. So if the bees are just getting away from you a little bit, we just blast them with a bit of smoke, and it can just keep on top of it. So that's really all we've got in there. Some smoke, the things to smoke with, a couple of tools just to manipulate the hive and things like that.
Right. And how many jars of honey do you typically get out of a decent hive a week?
You take 2 crops of honey off, so you've got one a spring crop now where beekeepers have been probably this last week or two taking a spring crop off, and then your summer honey, which you take off in about September time.
Right.
And it just depends on the hive, how productive they are. Each hive is different. But yeah, you can be looking to get a few boxes of honey, which is 300-400 jars per colony sometimes.
That'll do for me. And when you come down to do your weekly check, what is it you're looking for?
Well, a bit of everything. So just make sure that everything's all right, that hives aren't falling over, just basic beekeeping, basic like hive husbandry. And then we do swarm control.
Right.
So we need to make sure that the hives aren't going to swarm, and if they are, then we need to produce like an artificial swarm. So you need to trick the queen bee into thinking that she swarmed without actually leaving the hive. So
right.
That's where it gets a bit technical.
I thought Jonesy did really well down at the hives, mate, but we're inside now. Behind us is all the show honey. You're going to enter next year?
Yeah, I'm going to have a crack, why not? I've managed to get my first 3 boxes of honey a couple of weeks back now, so hopefully I get a summer crop as well, and yeah, have a crack next year, see what I can do.
And what are you going to call your honey? Got a name for it yet?
Yeah, we're clueless at stuff like that, so I asked my little boy, I thought, well, try and get a kid's perspective on this, and I said, George, what would you call it? Like, what do you do with honey? And he said, you drizzle it. So
Drizzle?
Drizzle, yeah, I like that. So yeah, we've got the Drizzle Honey Company.
The Drizzle Honey Company.
Thanks to George.
The Drizzle Honey Company could be repping it next year, but what would it mean to you to win at the Yorkshire Show?
Well, yeah, if I can make honey that's good enough to win anything, then I'd be chuffed. But to win at Yorkshire Show would be class, wouldn't it? So yeah, that's the dream, Alex.
The dream, mate. Best of luck with the Drizzle Honey Company. Keep us posted, and we will get Wagger over to the bees, mate.
Yeah, we'll see.
Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry. Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry.
Welcome back to Rugby AM Part 2 here, and it's time to go over and meet a real legend. Alec Murphy, one of the few people to captain and win the Challenge Cup with 3 different sides. Here he tells us he's 1 to 13. Check this out.
My name is Alec Murphy. I'm stood behind the back of the bar. I'm now going to pick my best team ever. Fullback immediately, which is very, very difficult indeed. I'm going to go for an Australian, a fella called Clive Churchill, the little master, great player, great goal kicker. I think I'd get lynched if I didn't do that with the Australians. The first wingman I would pick would be a fella from South Africa who played for St Helens called Tom van Vollenhoven. He was a magnificent player. He had pace, he had ability, he could score tries full length of the field, he had a good pair of hands, and he was a world-class player, the likes you'll not see every week. He played for a great club called St Helens, and they had many more great players. I could name a lot more as these 2. This is killing me, picking 2 players, because one of the players I'm going to have to leave out is another Australian, but I'm definitely going to have to put Billy Boston in my famous wingman. If anybody has been as good as Billy, with the ball in his hand, tackling, taking the ball full length of the field, you name it, he can do it. And he probably has been one of the greatest wingmen that's ever played, a Welshman. Come from Rugby Union, come from Tiger Bay, went to Australia with him, fallen over in him on my wings, and 2 great centres playing with him, we'd never lose again. My centres, this is a job where I'm going to have to think very, very hard, because I've got 2 centres. One is English, one is a lad called Eric Ashton, who was my tour captain, played for Wigan, captain of Wigan, been to Wembley, won the Ashes, magnificent player, great player. My second centre is a match-winning centre, probably had everything that's needed in rugby league. Great pair of hands, pace to burn, good defensive player, a lad called Reg Gasnier. Absolutely second to none. If he got the ball 50, 60 yards out, it was a try. Played with a great Australian side, played with the great St George, who probably won more titles than anybody there's ever won when they had the great team. People like Eric Popper Clay, who was a standoff player for them, Harry Wells, all great players. But Reg Gasnier, for me, was a very, very difficult centre to pick, but he was a great player, so I'll have to put him in. I move out now to the halfbacks, and this is going to be a problem, because I'm not being big-headed. I'm picking the scrum half first, and I think that I'd be the best scrum half that's ever played. I don't take that back. Some people will be sending me texts and saying your head's gone no bit smaller. I just had confidence. I did what I said with ability. We won things. I talk about things, but I also win things as well. I look for a standoff then, who I've got to say I want him to win me matches as well. And there's a lad here, very touch and go, a lad who from Wigan again, a lad called David Bolton. But I would pick a lad called Bobby Fulton, who played standoff for Australia. Was a world class, very, very no-nonsense standoff. Had everything what was required to be a world-class standoff. He was a great player. I move on to my forwards. Now this is the easy thing for me, because without a good pack of 6 forwards, you can't win anything. And you must start with the front row. And I'll start with the front row. I know some of these players we're talking about playing in the modern era. These fellas would love it. Think on these fellas I'm talking about now. Some of them had day jobs, had to go to work, had to go down pit, had to work on building sites and go out and go training, then go back to work and then play rugby. My best prop forward ever was a lad who, the captain of England, played for England, won the Ashes, played all through a match with a broken collarbone in a test match against Australia, and we'd 8 men fit on the field, and he played all through the match. Alan Prescott would be my number 8, definitely my number 8. He had pace. He started off on the wing when he started, so you can see he went a little bit bigger because obviously he ate a little bit too much, but he still put it to good use in the front row. He was an absolutely magnificent player. Hooking. I always like people who play in that position with pace. I know the game's changed now to where you don't strike for the ball, but in them days it was a skill. And we had people who could not only get you the ball, if you had a good hooker, you'd get 60-70% of the ball and guaranteed you to win most of the matches. This lad is from Hull, and he's a young fella called Tommy Harris. A very confident player, a very, very skillful player, and very, very quick. I think his job in life, I think he wanted to be a halfback really, but he wasn't quite fast enough to good enough to be one of them. But he was a great player. I've got a problem now where I come to number 10. I played with a lad at St Helens who, not the biggest name that's ever played in rugby league, scored a try in Australia, a lad called Ab Terry, number 10, 18.5 stone, runs 75 yards and sidestepped the fullback, Australian fullback, and went under the sticks. That's how good of a prop forward he was. I am finding it very difficult to find a difference. I am going to go for a lad from Wigan, and it hurts me to say this, called Brian McTeague. He was second to none. If he walked in church, you'd think he was an altar boy. You put him on the pitch, he was very, very difficult man. He was a professional boxer. He could have made a living at boxing, and I wouldn't have liked to have stood. He hit a fella in Australia who'd kind of done something he shouldn't have done, and I'm watching the game, and I'm watching Brian McTeague, and we disappeared down the other end of the field, and I'm watching the Australian who Brian has actually come in contact with in the middle of the game, and he's kind of caught him with one. Brian's got back to the bottom, got ready for the scrum, and we're still watching this fella as though he was drunk coming down the field. He got 10 yards from the scrum and collapsed. And Brian turned to me and said, "Spud, I must be losing myself." He said, "They normally go down a lot quicker than that." So you can tell what kind of a player he was. Now we're coming to the main men, the second row forwards, the class players. And this is going to be very, very difficult. I've got, probably I'm not going even to think about leaving him out, because I would never leave him out. A lad called from Whitehaven, who from Cumbria, played for a little team called Whitehaven. I went to his christening for his little lad, and he was one of them where he had very little control, and the baby was getting christened, and Dick had the biggest pair of hands you've ever seen in your life. He was the quickest second row forward that's ever played the game. And we're standing, the priest has just blessed the young boy, and Dick picks him up and throws him about 6 foot in the air and caught him in the church. And I thought, good God. So I knew for sure when he had the ball in his hand, A1 would never he'd never drop it and nobody'd ever catch him. Great player. He's my number 11, whatever. My other second row, I've got another problem. And I'm going to say things now where I think that I've got a person like Derek Turner who I think could play in the second row. And I've got people like Johnny Whiteley, who's definitely a loose forward, and so is Vinci Corellius. But I am going to go from a lad from Workington who was a second row forward called Brian Edgar. Great pair of hands, big man, 18.5 stone, great mover, great sidestep, tattle. No, plays the game how it should be played, and was a pleasure to play with. Loose forward, there is only one. I'm afraid he's the king of them all. I love Derek Turner, I love Johnny Whiteley, but Vinci Corellius was the number one loose forward that he's ever played. Worked in a scrapyard and played in a scrapyard. Didn't take anybody, whoever in front of him, he could put him on the floor. World-class player, that is my best 13.
Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry. Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry.
Welcome back to part 3 here at Rugby AM. Real special stuff coming up now and in part 4. First up, Bill Harrigan's 1 at 13, the legendary Aussie ref, and Danny Kerman goes with me to the bird sanctuary over at York, the Bird of Prey sanctuary. It's amazing. In part 4, we're straight into Danny Houghton's 2016 memories of the Challenge Cup final. I hope you enjoyed Rugby AM. We'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Bill Harrigan, former NRL referee from back in Australia, and I'm going through my 1 to 13 best players that I've ever refereed. Starting off in fullback, number 1. I'm going to give it to Darren Lockyer when he was a fullback before he moved to 5'8", because I've got someone special that has to take the 5'8" position. But Darren Lockyer, sensational player. I don't think any more needs to be said about how good he is, whether he plays fullback or 5'8". On the wings, Eric Groth played for Parramatta. I called him the train wreck because when he ran through players, he just left them in his wake and it looked like a train wreck as he raced off to the field. And when you got up close next to him, you were just thinking when you could hear the crunch of the bodies when they try to tackle him, geez, I'm glad I'm not getting run over by that bloke. On the other wing, just because I'm over here in England and you want a little bit of an English flavour, I'm putting the speech to Martin O'Fire on the other wing just because of his sheer speed, ego and just a mug lair when he scores a try and leaves everybody else behind him. Into the centres, Mal Meninga, Man Mountain. The size of the guy's thighs, and when he was running down the field and you could see the panic on the defensive players as they were seeing him run towards him, and they would say, please don't run near me, go the other way, and he just changed direction and crunched them. The centre pairing with Mal Meninga, as far as statue goes, it's David and Goliath, but it was Steve Ella, the zip man. Just brilliant with the ball, could do things, could change on the sidestep on a dime, change direction. And when you put Meninga and Steve Ella together in the centres, that's just an unbeatable combination. Go to 5'8", where Darren Lockyer finished off his career, but they've left that one for the king, Wally Lewis. Don't need to say too much about the king, except he was always 3 steps in front of any other player on the field. He would be doing moves 3 steps ahead, and you'd be thinking, what's he doing? And then 3 plays later, that move would come to fruition. So the king, Wally Lewis, is my 5'8", and right beside him is his little mate, Alfie Langer. What a brilliant little halfback. And I think he's probably remembered mostly for his 2001 State of Origin return after he'd retired and was over here in England, and the great Wayne Bennett brought him back, and he was the difference in that game, and he won the series for Queensland. So in the halfback role, Alfie Langer. Now we move on to the scrum, we go to the prop forwards. My old mate Gordy Tallis is my first prop forward. We've had a running battle right throughout our time of playing and refereeing, but he was still one of the toughest men that I've ever seen on the footy field. And my hooker, one of the triplets, like I call them, the Walters brothers. Steve Walters was my hooker. You had some great hookers back then. You had some tough hookers like Benny Elias and Mario Fennick and other guys that would whack into each other. But for me, it was Steve Walters as my hooker. Again, because I'm over here in England, I'm going to stick with a bit of an English flavour and give the other prop forward to Lee Crooks. When I refereed him, I could never understand a word he said because it was always, but tough man, and I got on well with him on the footy field. Matter of fact, he was playing in my very first game way back in 1986 when he was the captain of the Western Suburbs Magpies. Good on you, Lee. Second rowers, can't go past the old Steve Menzies as one of them. And in the second one would be Dave Gillespie. Two hard men, hard hitting, and two blokes that you want backing you up. Defensive players, haven't gone with a ball running player, but gone with the defensive players because I just enjoyed watching them up close and personal. And to finish it off in the lock forward position, I've got two blokes. Ellery Hanley, the Black Pearl, was brilliant. Refereed him here when he was playing with Leeds. A memorable game, I gave him a penalty try. An 8-point try when they were playing Featherstone way back in 1994. The fans in Featherstone don't really like me too much, so I don't venture over that way anymore because they were relegated that year and they put it down to that try, that game. I think they got beat by the 2 points. And the other guy is Bradley Clyde. Probably well known over here from 1994 of actually getting bashed by Sean Edwards in the test match, but Bradley Clyde, another great player. And that's my best 1 to 13, but you can't have a 1 to 13 game without a referee. And the best referee of all time, hello.
I'm here at the York Bird of Prey Centre to meet Rugby League's favourite twitcher, Danny Kermond. And look, I've got my own little angel, my little barn owl, absolutely beautiful. What a beautiful bird.
Call that a bird, Simo. This is a bird.
Ho, 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 ho. Kermo, I'm a little bit in awe, mate, because I've got myself a little angel barn owl. Who have you got there?
Got the golden eagle here, mate. The king, really, of the eagles. Biggest British bird, and can do plenty of damage if I set it on you, Simo.
Well, apparently it can kill a brown bear. We've been learning a little bit about it, but we're going to go now and speak to Andy Fawcett, who runs this fantastic centre, and get some more information on birds, because you're a real keen birdman, mate.
Yeah, I like getting out. It's good to get out into nature, Simo. A nice release from rugby, and I do plenty of work with barn owls in the local area and Wakefield peregrines as well. So yeah, it's good to get out and having a great day down here at York Bird of Prey Centre.
Right, let's go meet Andy Fawcett, the main man down here at the York Bird of Prey Centre.
Good morning, Danny. It's great to have you in your team. Okay, obviously you've got interest in the birds, same as me. The passion I can see in your face already. Can you tell me a bit about yourself and how you got into this?
Yeah, well, a bit of a funny one, really. I mean, always when I was younger, I used to get out and about with my granddad, just mainly looking for nests and things like that, and just developed an interest from there. And then a couple of years back, I put a picture of a barn owl on Instagram, and a guy, Scott Hargreaves from Dewsbury, messaged me and said, I do a bit with putting barn owl boxes up, little owl boxes and things like that, if you'd like to come out and have a look. So I've been going out with him last couple of years, and then through that, really just tweeting about my interest, got involved with Wakefield peregrines. A guy called Francis Hickenbottom runs that, and it's just been really successful since then. They have to raise money to run a live camera, and I've helped out a little bit with that, and it's just fascinating to get to view things that you don't normally get to in normal life, really.
It's fantastic to know there's people like you out there that care about the birds. Have you got a favourite?
It's probably got to be, even though I've got the golden eagle here, which is really amazing, the peregrine, just watching them hunt and the way they fly around at such speeds, it's just amazing to watch. They're superhuman, really.
Kermo, you met Andy, what a passionate man. I think we met somebody who knows more about birds than you, which is unbelievable. Have you learnt some stuff today?
Oh yeah, it's some of these birds here, I've never seen before. They've got a lot of rare species and things like that. So it's just fascinating and interesting to come down and find out some more facts. It's a real personal experience for everyone here. You can see everyone's got people showing them around and things like that. So it looks really good.
Yeah, it's an amazing place to come visit. Now you've got one of your loves here, the peregrine falcon, Kez, as I'm calling it. It's really called Apollo, but I'm calling it Kez. And it's a beautiful bird, and you've got quite familiar with these birds.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's a bit of a passion of mine. There's one actually on Wakefield Cathedral, a nest. It's been there, I think, 4 years now, and there's a live camera on there. And I've just done a little bit of fundraising to help Francis along with raising money for that, to keep the live camera going, because it's really fascinating. Wakefield, you know, it's a little bit run down in the city centre, but if you look up, it's a really beautiful place. The buildings are really nice, and then we've got a peregrine on the cathedral spire.
One game more, he said, lifting his body from the ground, knowing too well he would never stop. This never stops, never ends. One game. Here, where throwing a ball isn't just a pass, it's a journey through 120 years of history. Here, a fixture is more than a game. It's a rivalry forged along ancient borders. Here, a song is more than support. It's the accumulated passion of generations of fans. A stadium is more than a ground. This cauldron is a place of worship, where all are welcome. Where rugby league is more than a sport, where there will be no final whistle, no season end. There will always be more. More to give, to share, to hand down. More countries to reach, a legacy to build upon. There will be more fans to entertain, moments that will last forever. Players to immortalise, rivalries settled. And legends to embrace. The world's greatest players, together, here. The 2021 Rugby League World Cup in England will be more than just a game. It will show rugby league for what it truly is. One game. Together.
Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry. Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry.
The morning of the cup final, I'm not too sure where we stayed, but I remember waking up. I roomed with Mark Minicello, and you know, he was doing his morning routines of stretching and, you know, eating his bread and what he does. But I remember going for a walk around the park where we stayed, and it was actually with Mark. We went as a team, but on this day we managed to be on our own, and we were just having a little wander around and talking about winning it really, and you know what it'd be like to win it. And going back to previous years when I played there in 2013, we went there really as a bit of the unknown. We'd not really any of the team had ever come across playing at Wembley. So I think we got a bit caught up in the old scheme of going to Wembley, sightseeing, and rather than focusing on the job in hand. But we went with a real focus on getting the job done, not just playing at Wembley, but going to win that cup final, which has eluded us for years. And you know, I remember speaking to Mark, and he said to me from round one, every round we're going to win this, we'll do this. And I remember him coming up to me after the game and actually grabbing me and saying, I told you we'd do it. And you know, I think it really sunk in then that, you know, we'd achieved, you know, greatness really. Radders wanted it to be, you know, taken as another game, although it was the biggest game of our careers. And I think he did a real good job in previous we've had families and talking on screen, and some of the senior boys talking about how important it is to perform on that day. But on the bus journey, it was the same going down. It was a bit of banter like always, bit of music on like we always do. Like I keep saying, we tried keeping it as ritual as every game, and it was no difference on the way. Although when we got to the stadium, we had a dog bark. They give us a bark, and I think a few of the boys looked round, but no, it was all good. And when we got into the dressing rooms as well, it was the same as it always is. As I keep saying, we had a bit of music on, really relaxed. All the boys were just having a bit of muck about until the time came to switch on. Stood in the tunnel waiting to go out. Memory was a bit lapsed by then. I was zoned in, to be honest. I remember Gaz Ellis speaking to his mascot, with him. I'm not sure if it was Adam Pearson's kids or not, but I remember thinking, you're a bit too relaxed for me, Gaz. But he's probably seen it all before, and he's won big games. But yeah, I love that song, and it always, every time I think of the Challenge Cup, I'd love to be out on the pitch side actually when the bad wing is on. I think it really gets your nerves on the back of your neck standing up, and you couldn't really hear it. It was just, I was that nervous before the game. We had these long pants on that our conditioner Paul Ahmed as well, and I remember thinking, I need to get these off. I'm red hot here, but we stood in the tunnel for a good couple of minutes, so I was just zoned in. I can't really remember that actual part. I was just trying to think about what my job was on hand, and rather than get caught up in the old school bit, trying to keep relaxed and focused on what I'm going to do. The match itself, I remember for the first 20 minutes really trying to get me breath in. It's probably the fastest game I've ever played, and all the anxiety you have and the adrenaline going through your body, it was absolutely zapped, and it wasn't until about 30 minutes where I started to feel okay, and by then it was half time. But the main point of the game that I remember significantly was what everyone talks about was Sneady's 40-20 kicking. He actually called it from behind the. He's done it a couple of times, to be honest with you, during games. He's actually called the 40-20 out, and he's actually nailed it. The couple of times he's actually done it. So that's the main point of what I can remember from the cup final, other than lifting the trophy. It was one of them points what you can't not forget, because it changed the game, and it really got us on the front foot and moving forward, and started to believe that we could win the trophy. It was 10-0 down. Although you're trying to believe you're going on to win it, it's in the back of your mind that, is it going to be nil again? Is it going to be nil again? And thankfully that play sparked us all into gear and kicked us on. Half time, I think we just talked about staying positive and making sure that we stay in the game, because if we thought we could stay in the game and knock a few sets off, that we've got some players within the team that have got some ability to come up with big plays, and thankfully, like I just talked about with Sneedy, he came up with a massive play, and then that chip to the corner for Mahe and the knock down to Sneedy to feed Shirley was another massive play from him. So all the talk about was making sure we stay positive, and not get into self-doubt, and making sure we keep believing that at any one point of the game that we could really turn it on its head. It was tackle 52, and it was one of them moments where it was do or die. It was a red hot day. It was probably 45, 50 degrees pitch side, and all the boys was hanging a little bit, coming down closer stages, and I didn't really have much time to think about it, to be honest. It was just more one of them desperational efforts where like I just said, it was do or die. It was make the tackle or ineffectively lose the cup final. But it wasn't just a ball about me, it was about the team effort. And on that day we probably weren't great for 60 minutes, but we had a couple of players who come up with some special plays, with Sneedy with his 40-20, and Mahe's not back to set up that try that effectively got us into the lead. But yeah, it was going back to the tackle, it was probably the most important tackle that I'll ever make in my life. I don't think I really believed we'd won it until that final whistle gone, because although after that tackle on Ben Curry, we still had another set to defend, and we were throwing it end to end, and all I could remember myself doing was turning back and looking at the clock and seeing there was 15 seconds to go, and I was thinking, just someone kill the play. And thankfully Liam Watts, I think it was Chris Sander, I'm not sure, it might have been Ben Curry who we tackled, and once Minnie dived on that ball, I think he was trying to get up to play the ball, and I remember Yemo just diving on him and saying, stay down, stay on the floor. And after that, I just collapsed in disbelief, really, because it was a boyhood dream, and to finally do it, I've gone through all my career wanting to do that, and it got to a stage in my career where I managed to miss out in 2008 and be 18th man. 2013, we got hammered 16-0 by Wigan in terrible conditions, and then we've not had another chance, and I'm starting to think, am I going to get this chance to win it? And thankfully, when that final whistle gone, I just sunk and finally believed that I finally got what I wanted. When I finally regained my breath and regained my feet, the first person that came out to me was Matt Minicello, and he, like I said to you, he actually said, I told you we'd do it, I told you we'd do it, and I'll always remember that going right through my life, I think. Walking up them steps to go lift that trophy, I think, the steps are, I don't know how many tall they are, 100 and odd tall, and it was irrelevant. I had all the energy in the world at that point. I just won the Challenge Cup final, and finally getting my hands on that trophy. I actually, when I'm talking about making sure you remember the memories you have, I can't remember that bit. I think I was just in that much of an headspace that we'd finally done it, we'd finally got our hands on that trophy, and it was the greatest day of my life, picking that trophy up. I've got 2 children at home, and that was obviously the best day of my life, but in terms of sporting and that feeling I got, it was second to none. It was special. The atmosphere in the changing rooms afterwards, I remember walking in, I think I was second last behind Tag after Tag was getting selfies with every possible fan he could within the crowd and holding his real good banners up. But I remember walking in I actually had the trophy on me, and I walked into just a massive cheer from all the boys, and the beers flowed, and we cracked out into our victory song of All Faithful, and it was probably the loudest thing I've ever heard. The feeling of glory and that song going off, all the boys celebrating and getting them beers over our head. But the one thing I remember from the dressing rooms as a whole was, it's nothing really to thingy, but I remember asking if all the old boys that would played on that day, including staff, could get in a group photo, and we all got in the group photo. And I remember Gaz, who was obviously not from Hull, jumping into the photo, and Jamie Shaw basically telling him what you're doing in a photo, and pouring beer all over his head. And I think we've got a shot of it somewhere of him getting the beer poured in his head. It's a memory that that sticks with me that all the time. I know it's not a great story, but it's a memory that'll always stick with me. That we had the parade round Hull with all the Hull fans, and I think 25,000 turned out at the City Hall, and that was special. That was Hull coming together and celebrating what they'd been waiting for life, really. And I can't really remember after that. That was a blaring night. It was all rough anyway from the night before. And when we got on the bus to do the parade, I remember a few boys just sitting there and thinking, I don't really want to be on this bus. My head's a bit of a mess. My head's a shed, and the sooner I can get off the better. But once we got round to the City Hall and the reception, I think the boys kicked into gear a little bit then, and started to lap up what we'd just done and take it all in again.
Whether it's power station, factory or stadium, covering installation or maintenance, Spec, the specialist power contractor to industry.